Hello and welcome back. I'm Colleen Godfrey, and I'm teaching you unified mindfulness and meditation practices for resilience. So today what I wanted to share with you was again something from Daniel Goleman called Taking Control of Your Situation. Events and situations do not have inherent meaning, only the meaning that we give them. Normally, we create meaning without any conscious thought. We simply react. However, it's possible to change our perspective in a way that improve our emotional lives. So we'll try a few techniques to help you do that in the next exercise. So your body provides these important cues in three specific ways, and we call these three markers of emotional balance, or the 3 R's. There's recognition, which is understanding your body's physiological stress response. There's resilience, which has to do with how quickly you recover from a stressful event or trigger. And then there's regulation, which is how the body and mind work together to manage emotional reactions. And when we practice mindfulness, we're automatically building those skills. We're better able to recognize when our body is under stress, and therefore we can tend to it. We tend to be more resilient, and we're better able to regulate our own emotional system. Now, the 3 R's in the real world. Imagine that you're about to walk into a dark, unfamiliar cave. In addition to a little courage, you're going to need some kind of torch or headlamp. And where you choose to direct that light is a bit like your ability to direct your focus. And the light illuminating your path has the same function as self-awareness. When we're meditating, we're deeply self-aware. We're becoming highly trained observers. So that's where the meditation comes in. You manage the 3 R's in response to what you come across in the cave, and that determines your emotional balance. Every discovery that you make has the potential to elicit a different response. So let's say that you're thinking of catching a glimpse of a bear hibernating, and your reaction to that thought is, oh my God, it's a bear. And that is going to spur a series of physical and emotional responses. The more you think the bear is real, the greater the likelihood that you'll run like the wind to get out of there. However, if upon closer inspection you realize that the bear is actually a rock, you'll experience a sense of relief and a lessening of fear while you notice your heart rate slowing down. So while you may still be on alert, you're able to re-engage with your exploration with enthusiasm and curiosity. Now, I wanted to share, there's this story of this old yogini who she's been in some cave up in the Himalayas meditating for like 40 years. And she's sitting there by her fire one night. It's pitch dark in the cave except for this fire. And all of a sudden the wind picks up and she gets hit by some sparks. There's a lot of smoke like coming up in her face, so she's kind of choking and turning away. And she gets up to move out of the smoke, and then she sees these 3 demons. And right away she thinks, oh, you guys are here again. And they get disappointed, and they're like, you're not even scared. And they keep trying to like throw, embers on her, and they're blowing all this debris up in her face. And she just stays perfectly calm. And she says, you guys have been here before. I know you'll be here again. I want you to sit down. I'm going to go get the pot and we'll make tea. So she goes and she gets her pot and she's ready to make the tea. And these 3 demons are ticked and they're like, we didn't even scare you at all. And she said, basically, I've met you guys so many times that I'm just going to welcome you as my friends. But that's an example of what they're demonstrating here with emotional intelligence, with recognition. Early on, these flames are coming at her and it's really smoky, but she isn't going to let herself get hijacked. She's just noticing that there's smoke. She's just noticing that the embers, hot embers, are coming her way, and she moves out of the way, but she doesn't jump to any conclusion that she's not safe. So she doesn't get emotionally hijacked. And what she discovers, in fact, and this is a sign of her resilience, is that, oh, it's just those three demons again, and they've been here before and they'll be back. And so to regulate the situation, when we're regulating, we're managing. And so she isn't intimidated at all by these three demons. And in fact, she manages them by opening her heart to them graciously and saying, hey, you guys are back. Let's be friends. I'm going to make tea for all of us. And so that's the way that we're learning to relate to reality when we're using emotional intelligence. And also on the meditation path, it really prepares us very well to know that our demons, and I don't know about you, but a lot of my demons are just, stupid ideas that I have. They're not even real things. Sometimes it's just fear or it's a desire, and I'm wrestling with things that I could just as easily let go of. So emotional balance doesn't mean that you avoid anything bad. It's quite the opposite. Recognition of your body's physical reactions to stressors is the first step toward building resilience and regulating your emotions and physical responses. Your body is designed to give you telltale signs of stress, and the more you're able to tune into the body and listens to the clues that it's giving you, the better you'll be able to face your life, whatever it throws at you. So often we're so preoccupied with our thoughts that we don't even realize that our body is trying to communicate with us. For example, you might have a pounding headache and not realize that it's impairing your ability to focus. Or maybe you experience a deep feeling of spaciousness and warmth in your chest, and when you're hugged by a child, but don't pause to savor just how wonderful it is. To get a better idea of what your body has to tell you, you can set aside 5 minutes and find a space where you won't be interrupted. Set the timer on your phone for 3 minutes, close your eyes, and in this exercise, they're asking you to make a soft fist with one hand and to begin to regulate your breathing. Each time you start to exhale, you quickly tighten and release your fist. Once 3 minutes have passed, you use the remaining time to note the following. Were you able to focus only on breathing and controlling your hand? If not, how many times were you distracted and by what? Did you notice any tension in your body, and if so, where? And did you notice any pain or discomfort, and if so, what caused it? This practice sets the groundwork for deepening your ability to recognize what's going on for you in your body, and the first of the 3 R's, which in turn will allow you to improve your resilience and regulation, which are vital components of emotional balance. So let's do that together for 3 minutes. So we close our eyes and we make a soft fist with one hand and begin regulating the breath. And each time you start to exhale, you quickly tighten and release your fist. So we'll do that for 3 minutes. I'm going to set my timer. I'm curious to know what you're noticing. I know what I'm noticing is that there's a lot of softening, and it's harder to clench the fist. It's harder to clench it because there's so much relaxation. And there's a sense of like joy welling up in my face. There's a sense of joy, almost like I want to giggle. And it makes it actually really hard to clench the fist, which is really kind of fascinating. So now instead of clenching the fist, like I actually feel myself just wanting to laugh, like it feels like I'm going to get the giggles. And there's 33 seconds left. About 15 seconds left. And I feel extreme joy. There's something about doing this breath work and trying to keep a clenched fist that seems to have an opposite effect of what I would expect it to feel like to clench my fist. So for me, I would love to know how it felt for you at home. For me, I just felt this overwhelming sense of gratitude and joy and even bliss. Like right now, I have a kind of pronounced blissful state, and I feel really smiley and happy. So that was an interesting experiment. So we can use these experiments like that to learn so much about how we can regulate ourselves if we get triggered. How might we come back to equanimity in a way that doesn't take us very long? Maybe we can just do this kind of deep breathing for 3 minutes and try to make a fist and see if our whole body doesn't get relaxed and kind of marshmallowy. So now we're going to go and work with the way of thoughts and emotions using a technique that's called See In. We have in our mind screen an inside place on which images and memories and fantasies all sort of swirl and coalesce. And out of this place, our dreams are made. And we observe it most often as we fall asleep, but rarely with waking rigor and alertness. And that's what the meditation is all about. Meditation is about being on your seat, being awake, being alert and attuned. So Shinzen's basic mindfulness system, our internal worlds have 3 primary components: talk, image, emotional body sensations. In neuroscience, they call this the brain's default mode network. It's the part of the brain that is active when the brain is in idling and not engaged in novel external sensory processing. So the meditation will continue to teach you 2 other surprising things. One is that the thinking process is tangible with different components that interact with each other to react to the environment. I'm going to say that again. The thinking process is tangible with different components that interact with each other to react to the environment. And 2, your innermost experience is actually a space with component locations and different sensory qualities. I'll say that one again. 2, the innermost experience is actually a space with component locations and different sensory qualities. So as with herein, this See-In meditation uses a Vipassana noting technique where you train your attention to either the active image or its inactive correlate, which is the internal blankness. So you're either tuning to images or to the blankness. And the idea is to observe your own inner energy processing with clarity and without judgment. So in addition to the spiritual benefits, there are specific psychological benefits to this particular practice. And as you begin to observe your own inner images with more concentration, clarity, and equanimity, you find that you're able to get more space around them. They don't trigger you the same way. Just like it was hard to keep that clenched fist and do a rhythmic breathing exercise for 3 minutes, you didn't even really notice the clenched fist. What you're noticing is that you're this upwelling of contentment. So what's more, it becomes easier to separate the image part from the inner talk and emotions. So as we're able to tease these things into their various parts, they lose their ability to grab us and trigger us. So when this happens, the stressful and overwhelming negative states, limiting beliefs, difficult emotions, unproductive urges, and so on, can be broken into smaller and more manageable pieces, and their power over you is weakened. So you begin to have more clarity, self-possession, and spaciousness. The goal of the meditation is not to get rid of the images, not to eradicate them, but to see them more clearly and let them come and go without trying to control or fight them. So we're really kind of neutralizing them. So for this sitting session called Seeing In, we're going to do this for we'll do this one for 15 minutes. I'm going to start my watch. So close your eyes, relax, and deliberately visualize an image in your mind's eye. It could be a place or a person or animal. It can be anything. So the space in your head where you see this mental image is the domain we're going to be working with. And although it can be vague and hard to detect, most people report that their image happens somewhere in the front of the head but behind the eyes. See where this happens for you. Whenever you become aware of any image activity in this space, it could be a memory or a fantasy. It could be a flickering, still or moving image. It could be almost like white out on the TV screen where there's just a lot of flickering. You want to silently label this See In, and then investigate the image and get curious about your personal configuration. The way our images coalesce and fragment in the mind, it's different for everyone. So the two-part noting process is: one, acknowledge the image with the label See In, and then two, investigate with affectionate fascination, so about 5% effort, and there's about 95% on the investigation. So if you're kind of having a hard time figuring out where the image is, one way that it's described is to close the eyes and then angle them slightly upward so that you're activating what's called the third eye space. And for me, if I sit in meditation for maybe 5 minutes, what arises there typically is like a smoky blossom. It's called an amitabha. But you might have images, or you might have light flickering, or you might notice almost a molten lava kind of redness. And you just label it See In. And then investigate with affectionate fascination. What is there? Does the image disappear immediately? Does it persist? If it disappears, that's fine. If it's more enduring, you can ground yourself in the image's stability and watch it carefully. And repeat the label "see in" every few seconds, or whatever pace is comfortable for you. So we're really getting intimate with our headspace. We're really seeing what's going on in there. And it might be flickering or subtle little blasts of light. Sometimes people see indigo. They might see indigo light or violet light or white light. And investigate it with curiosity without making a story about it. You're just really curious about it. If you can't see any images, that's totally all right. Then you just watch the mottled and pixelated black space behind your eyelids. Ganzfeld, this is called. The open field. If this is the case, just observe the emptiness, the rest. Investigate it. Pour your attention into it. Find the peacefulness in it. And label the blankness, see rest. If your attention gets pulled away to sound or to internal talk or body sensations or something happening in the next room, that's fine. Just gently return to the image space and the rhythm of noting see in, or see rest, or whatever is happening for you. Try not to intentionally create mental images or to deliberately eliminate them. Let whatever happens, happens. Your job is to simply keep track of the images or the blankness at a pace that works for you. A certain amount of guessing and groping is normal at first, and sometimes all we see is the vague shimmering of subconsciousness visually processing. If you're vaguely aware of some indistinct swirling image but can't quite make out the detail, that's okay. You can still label that inner image activity see in. If some insight arises during this process, you simply notice that insight and table it for after the meditation is done. If you were doing this process and something extraordinary happened, let's say you had like a vision, the process would still be to be curious and investigate and label it see in. For most of us, what we're going to see is just mundane, sort of swirling bits of color and light. And keep looking, even when your eyes might feel tired. Stay curious, stay engaged in the practice. It's how we train ourselves to stay open and engaged and non-judgmental, and to move beyond preferences. And when we do that, we become more resilient. We have more of ourselves to give to others. So as you go about your day, you can occasionally check in with the image space and see what's going on in there. Are you more of a future planner? Are you someone who likes to be lost in the past? Are you replaying memories? Are you ruminating? Do you fantasize? And if so, about what? Try to notice these things. See how external conditions provoke different kinds of visual activity in the mind. Do you fantasize in meetings when people are trying to speak to you? And get really curious. And you might ask the question, is this the appropriate time? Maybe I should be listening right now. And just notice your patterns. And then when you are done with the lesson, it's always a good idea to keep a journal and make a few notes. Today we did seeing in. What was seeing in like for you? Just make a couple of bullet points is really all it takes. But the research shows that if you make the time to record it in a dedicated journal, you'll have deeper insights, greater clarity, and increased harmony than if you didn't actually do the meta reflection and keep the journal. So it's beneficial to you to do the journaling in conjunction with the practices themselves. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I want to thank Faribault Community Television. I want to thank the Community Center. I want to thank you, of course, for being here and joining me. I want to thank the Department of Parks and Recs and thank them for the beautiful space and allowing me to bring this free offering to you. And I will be back with another meditation, and we'll see how long this process keeps going, but I do believe that it will be ongoing for some time, so I look forward to seeing you again. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.